Respected President, Institute for Leadership and Development Communication, ILDC Africa, Professor Desmond Onimesi Okocha, Honorable Thematic Session Chairs, Professor Amtu Harikrishnan, Professor Thanun Y. Thanun, Associate Professor Solomon Adho, distinguished colleagues, guests, participants from different parts of the world, good morning to all of you. It is an honor and privilege for me to welcome you to this international multidisciplinary scientific conference on national identity in the global narrative, repurposing culture, technology, management and media for sustainable development, which has been organized by ILDC in collaboration with Northern Technological University, Iraq, Northern University, Bangladesh, Azteca University, Mexico, and Himalayan Dharwad University, India. I wish to extend my deep appreciation to the ILDC Africa Authority for giving me to share my thoughts, for inviting me to share my thoughts on the sub-theme Modern Management, Marketing, Industrialization and the Sustainable Development with esteemed professors, experts and the professionals of the world. I thank and welcome the participants of this international webinar who will share their knowledge and experience with their friends and colleagues and ensure an outcome that will be useful for the sustainable socio-economic development of their countries. Dear colleagues, the main aim of sustainable development of a country is to balance the economic, environmental and social needs, allowing prosperity for present and future generations. The objectives of sustainable development often are mentioned as reviving growth, changing the quality of growth, meeting essential needs for jobs, food, energy, water and sanitation, ensuring a sustainable level of population, conserving and enhancing the resource base, reorienting technology and managing risk, and merging environment and economies in decision making. Sustainable development consists of a long-term and integrated approach to developing and achieving a healthy community by jointly addressing economic, environmental and social issues, while avoiding the overconsumption of key natural resources of the earth. These include stable economic growth, social progress and equality, environmental protection and conservation of natural resources. Among these objectives, economic growth is perceived as central means of achieving improvements in the people's quality of life, which is positively linked with the modern management, marketing and industrialization of a country. Without ensuring efficient management, marketing of goods and services and industrialization, sustainable socio-economic development is unimaginable. This has also been recognized and acknowledged in past. If we look at the history, we will see that the emergence of British power spawned the major advances in management and the Industrial Revolution. Due to the growth of British Empire, international trade opportunities were growth all over the world. As a result, the 18th century saw the emergence of various international corporations such as the Hudson's Bay Company and the East India Company, which conducted businesses all over the world. These development of trade further led to the establishment of the marketplace as a dominant means of organizing the exchange of goods. One of the major intellectual leaders of this period was the economist and the moral philosopher Adam Smith. In his book, The Wealth of Nations, economist Adam Smith proposed the idea of a specialization and coordination within corporations as a source of economic growth, which were the major contributions to management thoughts later on. The idea of a specialization of labor had several important outcomes, such as a specialization drastically reduced the cost of goods, it drastically reduced the need for training, instead of learning every aspect of a task, workers needed to learn one portion of it, and the need to coordinate all these different tasks required a greater emphasis on management. At that time, the discovery of steam engine also played an important role in improving the marketing activities by transportation of goods and raw materials from one country to another. That lowered production and transportation costs and allowed products to reach more distant markets. Dear participants, meeting sustainable development goals require actions on a number of fronts, including harnessing and maximizing the potentials of technological innovation. That's why one of the greatest challenges that the developing countries in Asia and Africa face in realizing sustainable development is obtaining and putting in place the necessary and usable technologies. Although hardware, software, know-how and other technologies are essential tools for the sustainable development, but policies of sustainable development seek to change the nature of economic growth rather than limit it. These policies are developed on the belief that continual growth is possible through the powers of technology, which can enable us to find new sources if a particular resource appears to be running out. Technology will help us use and reuse what we have left in the most efficient manner. The tools of sustainable development like economic instruments, legislative measures and consumer pressures aimed at achieving technological changes such as recycling, substitution of materials, changed production processes and more efficient usage of the resources we have. Dear colleagues, attempts to invent and design different types of technologies that fit with local natural systems are not new. The appropriate technology movement, which bloomed in the 1970s, attempted to do this. Appropriate technology has been defined as technology tailored to fit the psychological and biophysical context prevailing in a particular location and period. It involves attending to ensure that technologies are fitted to the context of their use, both the biophysical context, which takes into account of health, climate, biodiversity and ecology, and the psychosocial context, which includes social institutions, policies, cultures, economics, ethics, and the personal or spiritual needs of the individuals. Therefore, technologies are to be developed based on the specific needs of the specific country, not directly borrowed or imported from other countries. Dear participants, the goal of sustainable development has also been described as to achieving a sustainable society. That means a society in which economy and population size is managed in such a way so that they do not do irreparable harm to the environment. In a sustainable society, the needs of people are satisfied without depleting natural resources and thereby reducing the prospects of current and future generations. Therefore, in order to achieve a sustainable society, behavioral change is necessary. And for this change in behavior, the public should have sufficient access to information as well as an opportunity for freely express views and opinions. Increased democratization and decentralization are supportive factors which enable people to effective behavioral change through provision of information needed for consciousness raising and awareness raising, and through better communication with the policy makers and the decision makers at all levels of the government. Dear colleagues, now due to trends in globalization and increasing ethnic, culture and gender diversity, it is imperative that modern managers and marketers learn how to manage cultural differences, create and use customized technologies, and minimize differences of individuals' work attitudes, which are the challenges for the modern business companies. Due to diverse labor force, there are both opportunities and challenges to manage the employees in a diverse work climate. Opportunities include gaining a competitive edge by embracing change in the marketplace and the labor force. Challenges include effectively managing employees with different attitudes, values, and beliefs. Under these circumstances, business companies now need to reap the advantages of diversity that can be enjoyed in the areas of cost of production, resource acquisition, marketing and promotion, system flexibility, creativity and problem solving, and the use of resources. To overcome the challenges, some companies are hiring foreign experts and professionals which are making conditional developments and are not becoming sustainable in the long run. Hence, the questions raised how to make the development sustainable by using the own resources in indigenous culture. Dear participants, for diversity practices to be successful, we need to facilitate an inclusive work culture which will be unique and adjustable with the diversity. Although many business companies have been putting diversity, equity and inclusion into greater focus over the last few years, there is still significant room for the improvements. It is also proved that diverse teams foster better employee engagement and productivity, and they allow for better problem solving abilities. Research also shows that companies with pro-diversity policies perform better and had greater resilience during the 2008 financial crisis. The reason is that the more diverse companies have greater levels of innovation. Therefore, we need to focus on diversity by maintaining our own culture and identity and establish practices for innovative solutions of our problems. Dear colleagues, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization UNIDO, in its inclusive and sustainable industrial development and the 2030 Agenda for Achieving Industry-related Goals and Targets, identified 3 issues on sustainable socio-economic development, such as creating shared prosperity, advanced economic competitiveness, and safeguarding the environment. Creating shared prosperity by inclusive growth with equal opportunities for all people via partnerships with all the relevant stakeholders, advancing economic competitiveness through industrial growth, increased trade and technological progress via modern industrial policy, and safeguarding the environment by environmentally sustainable growth via cleaner industrial technologies and production methods. Dear participant, successfully building a culture of inclusion requires a serious commitment from the leaders of an organization and participation at all levels. While there may be challenges along the way, the creation of culture of inclusion can result in increased retention, greater commitment, and input from the workforce, which can lead to noticeably improved business outcomes that consequently help in socio-economic development of a country. Dear friends, I hope that this conference will certainly provoke intellectuals to stimulate innovative courses that are solution inclined in navigating the discovery of African Asian identity and the perfect utility of culture, religion, management and media principles without borrowing solutions from the aliens for solving the problems of these regions. I also hope that the conference will be able to provide guidelines for sustainable socio-economic development irrespective of cultures and races by overcoming the severe impact of COVID-19 in this region. Dear colleagues, you are all leaders, policymakers, mentors, advisors, motivators in the socio-economic development process of your country. And I am fully confident that your knowledge, experience and expertise will provide important insights on the understanding that your problems are to be solved by yourselves with the help of others, not by compromising your identity and culture, which will ensure sustainable socio-economic development of your country. I would like to conclude by saying that the conference will help to provide course of actions for the sustainable socio-economic development and development of the standard of living of the people in these Asian African regions of the world. Thank you all.